Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Emma, your host, and I am so excited you've decided to spend this hour with me today. Today, we're talking about an important topic. Stop memorizing, start understanding. Many learners spend hours memorizing lists of words, grammar rules, or phrases. But does memorizing alone help you truly speak and understand English? I want to share a story about David, one of my friends, who struggled with this. David used to memorize long vocabulary lists before exams. He could repeat the words perfectly, but had trouble using them in real conversations. One day, he decided to change his approach. Instead of memorizing, he focused on understanding how words fit together in sentences and the meaning behind them. For example, rather than just learning the word challenge, David studied sentences like, "This project is a challenge because it requires teamwork," and "Facing challenges help us grow." He also listened to how native speakers use the word naturally. After a few weeks, David noticed he could speak more confidently and understand English better. He wasn't just recalling words, he was thinking in English. Understanding means connecting new words and grammar to real situations. Imagine you meet Sarah. Instead of memorizing phrases like, "How are you?" without knowing when to use them, you learn to notice how Sarah greets people at work or with friends. You pay attention to expressions and their feelings. When you do this, English becomes part of your thinking, not just something you repeat. It makes speaking and listening easier. Let me give you another example. My husband, James, wanted to improve his English for work. He stopped memorizing long lists of technical terms and started reading articles and listening to talks related to his field. He wrote down sentences he found interesting and tried to use those sentences in his daily emails and meetings. This helped him not only learn vocabulary, but also understand how to use it properly. He says this method gave him confidence and made learning more enjoyable. So, how can you start understanding instead of memorizing? First, listen to English every day. Find stories, news, or conversations that interest you. Don't focus on every word. Try to get the meaning of the whole sentence or idea. Second, practice speaking by using new words and phrases in sentences you create yourself. Don't just repeat, make it personal. For example, if you learn the word improve, say, "I want to improve my English speaking," or "She improves her skills every day." Third, read or listen to English material that is just a little bit challenging. When you find a sentence you don't understand, break it down. Look at the meaning of each word and how they work together. To help you practice, here is a short story about a teacher named Emma. Emma noticed her students memorized answers but couldn't explain ideas. She changed her teaching. Instead of giving them vocabulary lists, she asked students to explain words in their own sentences and talk about their experiences. One day, a student named Mark explained the word responsibility by talking about how he helps his wife with daily tasks at home. This showed real understanding, not just memorization. If you practice like Mark, you will find your English skills grow naturally. Understanding language means seeing how it fits into your life and daily experiences. Try this. Pick one new word each day. Listen to how people use it, make your own sentences, and use it in conversation with friends, family, or even yourself. Remember, English is a tool for communication, not just a list to memorize. When you focus on understanding, you'll find it easier to listen, speak, read, and write. A good friend of mine, Michael, wanted to improve his English for his job as a manager. At first, Michael tried memorizing long lists of business vocabulary. He could repeat the words in his office, but found it hard to join meetings or explain ideas clearly. One day, Michael changed his plan. He started to focus on understanding business conversations by listening carefully to how people spoke in meetings and how they used words. Instead of memorizing isolated words like deadline or budget, he listened to full sentences like, "We need to finish the project before the deadline," or "The budget for this quarter has increased." Michael began to practice these sentences by explaining them in his own words. He would say things like, "Our team must work fast because the deadline is soon," or "We have more money this quarter to spend." This helped him think in English and use vocabulary naturally. After a few weeks, Michael noticed he was more confident in meetings. He could follow conversations better and even contribute ideas without feeling stuck. His understanding of English improved much faster than when he was just memorizing. This shows the power of understanding English in context. When you see how words fit in sentences and how people use them every day, your brain starts to think in English. This is the key to speaking smoothly and listening well. Now, let's talk about grammar. Many learners try to memorize rules like use the past perfect tense or put ing at the end of verbs in continuous tense. But grammar is not just a set of rules to memorize. It is a tool to help you communicate clearly. Take Anna, a student I know. She used to memorize grammar rules without practicing much. She got confused in real conversations because she tried to think about rules while speaking. Then she changed her method. She started reading short stories and paying attention to how tenses were used naturally. For example, instead of memorizing the rule for past perfect, Anna noticed sentences like, "I had finished my work before he arrived." She read several examples and listened to how native speakers use these tenses in daily talk. Anna practiced by telling her own stories about her day, using the tenses she heard. At first, she made mistakes, but with time, she got better. She stopped thinking about rules and began to feel when to use different tenses. This approach helped Anna speak more fluently. She understood that grammar is not just rules, but patterns that make communication clear. So, how can you learn grammar by understanding? Read and listen to English regularly. Notice patterns in how people speak and write. Try to use these patterns in your own sentences. When you do this, grammar will feel natural, not difficult. You will speak English more confidently without stopping to think about every rule. Let's explore vocabulary in more detail. Many learners think learning vocabulary means memorizing lists of words. But words have different meanings depending on how and where they are used. Take the word break. It can mean many things: to stop working, to separate, or to take a rest. For example, my phone broke, break the chocolate into pieces, and let's take a break. Learning just the word break is not enough. You need to understand its different meanings by seeing examples in real situations. I remember John, who learned English for traveling. He used to memorize words without understanding their use. When he said, "I want to break," to a shopkeeper, they looked confused. Later, John learned the phrase, "take a break," and now he can say, "I want to take a break," which means to rest. This shows why understanding words in context is important. You learn how to use words correctly and avoid mistakes. To build your vocabulary with understanding, try these steps. First, when you learn a new word, look for example sentences. For example, if you learn the word support, see how people use it. She supports her family, or the company supports its employees. Second, listen to English speakers and notice the words they use in different situations. Third, try to use new words in sentences about your life. For example, I support my husband with his work, or my wife supports me when I study. Practicing this way helps your brain remember words with their meaning, not just as isolated items. Now, let's talk about listening skills. Many learners find it hard to understand spoken English because it is fast and full of unknown words. A good way to improve listening is to focus on the overall meaning, not every single word. Imagine you listen to a story about a family trip. Even if you don't understand every word, you can understand the main idea: who went on the trip, what they did, and how they felt. I want to share an example about Mark and his wife Linda. They went to visit Mark's parents in another city. Mark listened carefully when his father talked about the history of their town. Even though some words were new, Mark understood the story because he focused on the main ideas and the feelings in his father's voice. Mark asked questions to make sure he understood, like, "When did you move here?" or "What is your favorite place in the town?" This shows listening is active. It's not just hearing words, but understanding ideas and asking questions. To practice listening, try these tips. Listen to English every day, even for a few minutes. Focus on the meaning of sentences and ideas. Don't worry about every word. If possible, write down new words or sentences you hear and try to understand them later. Ask yourself questions about what you listened to, like who, what, where, when, why, and how. Try to talk about what you heard with friends or family. Speaking practice is also important. Many learners hesitate to speak because they worry about making mistakes. But making mistakes is part of learning. Take the example of Susan, a learner who was shy at first. She started speaking English with her husband every day, even if she made mistakes. Her husband listened patiently and helped her correct sentences gently. Susan's confidence grew because she spoke regularly. She also learned from her mistakes and improved quickly. If you want to speak better, practice often. Don't wait until you feel perfect. Use English in daily life with your family, friends, or even by yourself. You can describe your day, tell stories, or explain your plans. For example, today I cooked dinner for my wife, or tomorrow I will visit my friend. Speaking this way helps you think in English, making conversations easier. Remember, understanding English means connecting words, grammar, listening, and speaking into real life. Try to learn English like you learn your first language, by listening, practicing, and understanding, not by just memorizing. When you focus on understanding, your English will improve naturally and quickly. Keep practicing every day with the English Pod community. We are here to help you grow your English skills step by step. Now, I want to share a final tip. Use your environment to practice understanding. For example, when you read signs, instructions, or labels, try to understand the meaning instead of just memorizing the words. If you are cooking, listen to recipes in English and try to follow the steps. When you talk with your husband or wife, try to explain things in English. All these small steps help your brain connect English to real life, making learning easier and more enjoyable. One helpful way is to tell stories about your own life. When you create stories, you use words and grammar naturally. You don't have to memorize anything. Take Peter, for example. Peter is learning English to communicate with his wife's family. Every evening, he practices by telling stories about his day. One day he said, "Today, I helped my wife in the garden. We planted tomatoes and watered the flowers." Peter didn't memorize this sentence. He simply talked about what he did. This made his speaking stronger because he was using real language connected to his life. You can try this too. Pick a moment from your day and tell a story about it in English. For instance, "Yesterday I cooked dinner," or "I went to the market with my wife." Another great tip is to learn phrases, not just single words. Phrases are groups of words that work together to express ideas. Let's look at the phrase, take care of. It means to look after someone or something. For example, "I take care of my children," or "she takes care of the house." Learning phrases helps you speak more naturally and understand conversations better. Instead of trying to put words together one by one, phrases give you ready-made pieces of language. I remember Laura, who learned phrases instead of single words. She said, "Learning phrases helped me speak faster and understand what people say." Try to notice and practice common phrases when you listen or read English. Use them in your own speaking and writing. Now, let's talk about using questions to improve your understanding. Asking questions helps you think more deeply about English. If you hear a sentence like, "My husband enjoys reading books," you can ask yourself questions like, "What kind of books does he enjoy?" or "When does he read?" By asking questions, you connect ideas and learn more about the language. I want to share a story about Kevin, who practices English by asking questions. When he listens to conversations, he pauses and thinks, "Why did she say that?" or "What does he mean?" This helps Kevin understand not just words, but the meaning behind them. You can practice this too. When you read or listen, ask questions about the meaning and details. It makes learning active and interesting. Next, let's talk about using English in everyday situations. The more you use English in real life, the more you understand it. For example, when Sarah goes shopping with her husband, she practices by naming items in English and talking about prices. She might say, "This apple costs $2," or "We need to buy bread." Using English like this helps Sarah connect language with real things around her. It makes learning easier and more practical. You can do the same. When you are at home, work, or outside, try to describe things in English. Talk about what you see, hear, or do. Another useful method is to keep a small notebook or use your phone to write down new words and phrases. For example, James writes down sentences he hears from native speakers or in English lessons. Then he practices these sentences by reading them aloud and using them in conversations with his wife. This helps James remember language better because he sees it in context and uses it personally. If you do this regularly, your vocabulary and grammar will improve naturally. Let's also discuss how to deal with difficult words or sentences. Sometimes you might hear or read something you don't understand at first. Don't worry. Try to guess the meaning from the words you know and the situation. Context helps a lot. For example, if you hear, "We should leave early to avoid traffic," but don't know traffic, you can guess it means many cars on the road because of the word leave early. If you want to be sure, look up the word later and try to use it in sentences. Michael and his wife Emily often practice this way. When they hear a new word, they guess the meaning first and check later. This makes learning more natural and less stressful. Now, I want to encourage you to set small daily goals for English practice. For example, decide to learn 5 new phrases each day or listen to one short story. You can say, "Today, I will use 3 new sentences when I speak with my husband," or "I will listen to an English conversation for 10 minutes." Small goals help you stay motivated and make steady progress. Remember, the key to success is understanding English in real life, not just memorizing words or rules. Focus on connecting language to your life, listening carefully, asking questions, and practicing regularly. These habits will make your English grow stronger every day. Let me tell you about Olivia, who improved her English by talking to her husband every evening. They shared their day and practiced new words and phrases together. Olivia's English became more natural because she used the language with people she trusts and talks to every day. You can do the same. Practice English with your husband, wife, family members, or friends. Speaking with others helps you understand how English works in conversation. Also, don't forget to be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time. It is okay to make mistakes and learn from them. Every step you take towards understanding English is progress. Keep listening, speaking, reading, and writing as much as you can. Try to use English in your daily life, and you will see improvement. Finally, remember that the English Potted community is here to support you. We provide tips, stories, and practice ideas to help you stop memorizing and start understanding English naturally. Let's keep going with more ideas to help you understand English better and stop memorizing useless lists. One important skill is learning to guess meaning from context. When you hear or read something new, try not to panic if you don't know every word. Use the words around it and the situation. For example, imagine Anna is reading a recipe with the sentence, "Add 2 cups of flour and stir well." Anna doesn't know the word stir at first, but because she sees "add 2 cups of flour," she can guess stir means to mix the ingredients. This guessing skill is very useful. It helps you keep understanding English without stopping to look up every word. Another example is James and his wife, Emily. They like to read short articles in English together. When they find a new word, they try to guess its meaning first before checking the dictionary. Sometimes guessing meaning helps remember words better because your brain connects the word with the situation. Next, I want to talk about practicing speaking in a relaxed way. Many learners feel nervous about speaking English because they want to be perfect. But speaking is about communication, not perfection. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert started speaking English with his wife even though he made many mistakes. His wife helped him by listening patiently and encouraging him. Robert said, "I learned that it's okay to make mistakes. What matters is trying to speak and share ideas." You can practice the same way. Talk with your husband, wife, or friends. Don't worry about mistakes. The more you speak, the more confident you become. Try to use English in daily situations, like ordering food, asking for directions, or explaining your plans. For example, Sarah told me she says to her husband, "Let's buy some vegetables today," or "I will cook dinner tonight." These simple sentences help her practice naturally. Another useful technique is to repeat sentences or short paragraphs you hear. This is called shadowing. It helps improve your pronunciation and rhythm in English. For instance, if you listen to a story about a family picnic, try to repeat the sentences out loud after the speaker. John does this every day. He listens to short English videos and repeats what he hears. Over time, his speaking became smoother and clearer. You can do this with any English material you like, such as podcasts, news, or stories. Let's also discuss learning vocabulary through real-life experiences. The best way to remember words is by connecting them to what you do or see. For example, if you learn the word garden, you can visit a garden or look at pictures and talk about it. You might say, "The garden has many flowers," or "My wife and I plant vegetables in our garden." This connection makes words easier to remember and use. Try to use English when you do everyday tasks. For example, when you cook, name the ingredients in English. When you clean, describe what you are doing. Mark, a learner I know, started labeling items at home with English words. He put notes on the refrigerator, door, and furniture. This helped him remember words and use them naturally. Another important point is to practice listening with different types of English. English is spoken in many accents and speeds. Listening to different speakers helps you understand English better. For example, Michael listens to English from different countries, like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. This helped him get used to different pronunciations. You can find English listening materials online or in apps. Try to listen to different speakers and styles. Also, it's okay to listen to the same material several times. Each time you listen, you understand more and notice new words or expressions. Now, let's talk about reading to improve understanding. Reading helps you see how English is used in sentences and stories. Try to read simple books, news articles, or short stories in English. If you find difficult words, guess the meaning first, then check if needed. You can also write short summaries of what you read. This helps you practice writing and understanding at the same time. Anna likes to read news articles and then tell her husband about them in English. She says this helps her remember vocabulary and speak more naturally. Writing short sentences about your day is also helpful. You can write, "Today I cleaned the house," or "I talked with my wife about our plans." Writing helps you organize your thoughts in English and use vocabulary and grammar better. Let's return to the idea of learning phrases and expressions. Phrases are groups of words that often go together. For example, make a decision, take a break, and get ready. Learning phrases helps you sound more natural and understand native speakers better. James and Emily learned many phrases by reading emails and talking about their day. They used phrases like "catch up later" and "look forward to." Practicing phrases makes your English more natural and easier to understand. Lastly, I want to remind you to be patient and consistent. Learning English takes time and regular practice. Set small goals like learning 2 new phrases a day or speaking English for 5 minutes with your husband or wife. Remember, every small step counts. Keep listening, speaking, reading, and writing every day. Understanding English will come naturally when you connect language to your life. Let's continue by exploring how you can make English a part of your daily routine. The more you use English in real situations, the more you understand it deeply. Take David and his wife Lisa, for example. David works in an office where English is used often. Instead of trying to memorize long lists of words for his meetings, he decided to practice speaking English every day with Lisa at home. They made it a habit to talk about simple topics like their day, plans for the weekend, or cooking dinner. David would say things like, "Today I had a meeting with my manager," or "We will visit our friends on Saturday." By doing this, David learned to connect English words and phrases with his daily life. This helped him remember language better and use it naturally. You can do the same. Try to speak English with your family or friends regularly. It does not have to be perfect or long conversations. Short talks are very helpful. Another useful habit is to describe things around you in English. For example, when you are at home, you can say, "The kitchen is clean," or "My wife is cooking dinner." When you go outside, you might say, "The weather is sunny today," or "There are many people at the market." Describing your surroundings in English helps you practice new words and improve your ability to think in English. Let me share a story about John. John is a busy worker who wanted to improve his English but had little free time. He started using small moments during his days to practice English. When waiting for the bus, John would describe what he saw or thought in English. For example, "The bus is late today," or "I hope it will rain later." These small exercises helped John practice English without needing extra time in his day. You can try this too. Use moments during your day to practice thinking and speaking English quietly or out loud. Another important way to understand English better is to practice listening actively. Active listening means paying full attention and trying to understand the message, not just hearing words. For example, when you listen to someone talking about their plans, focus on what they want to do, when, and why. Let me tell you about Emily, who improved her listening by focusing on key information. Instead of trying to understand every word, she listened for important details like names, places, and times. This helped Emily understand conversations better and follow along without getting confused. You can practice active listening by listening to short English talks or stories and then summarizing what you heard in your own words. For example, after listening, say, "The story was about a family going on vacation," or "The speaker talked about his job and daily routine." Summarizing helps you check your understanding and remember the information. Another tip is to ask questions when you don't understand something. If you are in a conversation, don't be afraid to ask, "Can you please say that again?" or "What does this word mean?" Asking questions helps you learn and shows you are interested in understanding. I want to share a story about Michael and his wife Anna. Michael sometimes did not understand words in English, so he asked Anna to explain. She was happy to help and explained words in simple English. This made learning English easier and more fun for both of them. If you don't have someone to practice with, you can write down words or sentences you don't understand and look them up later. Reading in English is another great way to improve your understanding. Choose simple books, articles, or stories that interest you. Try to read a little every day, even if it is just a few sentences. When you find new words, try to guess their meaning from the sentence before checking the dictionary. You can also underline or write down new words and practice using them in your own sentences. Laura, a learner I know, reads short stories and then writes a few sentences about what she read. This helps her remember vocabulary and grammar better. You can do this too. After reading, write a short summary or tell someone about the story in English. Let's talk about practicing speaking with confidence. Many learners feel nervous about speaking because they fear making mistakes or not being understood. Remember, everyone makes mistakes when learning a language. The most important thing is to try and communicate. Take Sarah, for example. Sarah was shy at first, but started practicing English with her husband every day. Even when she made mistakes, her husband encouraged her. This support helped Sarah speak more confidently. Try to find someone you trust, like your husband, wife, or a friend, to practice speaking English. Start with simple topics like your daily routine, hobbies, or family. For example, "Today I cleaned the house," or "My wife and I went to the market." Speaking regularly helps you think in English and improves your fluency. Another helpful idea is to record yourself speaking English. Listen to your recording and notice areas where you can improve. Don't be too hard on yourself, celebrate your progress, and keep practicing. Now, let's discuss learning English through real-life tasks. Doing tasks in English helps you understand how language works. For example, if you are cooking, read the recipe in English and follow the steps. Say the steps out loud, like "add 2 eggs" or "stir the mixture." When you shop, try to use English words for the items you buy. For example, "I need apples," or "How much does this cost?" My friend David does this with his wife. They practice English together while cooking and shopping. This practical use of English helps David remember words and feel more comfortable speaking. You can try this approach too. Use English in your daily activities and connect language with real-life situations. Finally, set realistic goals for your English learning. Goals help you stay motivated and see your progress. For example, decide to learn 5 new words or phrases each week, or speak English for 10 minutes every day. Write your goals down and check your progress regularly. Remember, learning English is a journey. It takes time and effort, but with consistent practice and understanding, you will improve. Keep practicing with the English Pod community, and your English will grow stronger every day. Now, let me share one more story about a learner named Tom. Tom wanted to improve his English for his job. He stopped memorizing vocabulary lists and started focusing on understanding language in context. Tom listened to conversations at work, read emails, and practiced speaking with his wife every day. After a few months, Tom felt much more confident speaking English. He said, "Understanding English helped me communicate better and made learning easier." When you read and listen at the same time, your brain connects sounds with written words. This helps you recognize pronunciation, spelling, and meaning together. For example, Emma and her husband, Daniel, like to listen to short stories while following the text. Emma listens carefully to the pronunciation and then reads the same sentence aloud. This practice helps Emma improve both her listening and speaking skills. She also learns new words and grammar naturally. You can try this too. Find simple stories or articles that come with audio. Listen to the story first, then read the text. After that, try to read the story aloud yourself. This method helps your brain get used to how English sounds and looks, making it easier to understand and speak. Another tip is to use English in writing. Writing helps you organize your thoughts and remember vocabulary and grammar better. Try keeping a daily journal in English. You don't need to write long stories, just simple sentences about your day. For example, "Today I went to the market with my wife," or "I cooked dinner and cleaned the kitchen." My friend Anna writes a few sentences every day. She says this helps her think in English and improves her vocabulary. You can also write emails or messages to friends or family in English. This real communication makes writing practice more meaningful. Now let's talk about practicing English by teaching others. Teaching someone else what you learn is a great way to understand English deeply. Take Michael, for example. Michael practices English by explaining new words and grammar rules to his wife. Sometimes he helps his friends with English too. When Michael teaches, he needs to understand the language well to explain clearly. This helps him remember and use English better. If you have a chance, try teaching simple English to a family member or friend. You will find that explaining language helps you understand it more. Next, I want to talk about how patience and regular practice make a big difference. Learning English is like building a house. You start with a strong foundation and build step by step. For example, James started learning English slowly. Every day he learned new words, practiced speaking with his wife, and listened to English stories. After months of practice, James could speak more confidently and understand conversations better. You can build your English step by step too. Practice a little every day. Don't rush or try to learn everything at once. Celebrate your progress, even small steps. Each day you practice, you get closer to your goal. Another helpful habit is to use English learning apps or websites. Many apps have lessons that focus on understanding language in context. For example, Sarah uses an app that teaches phrases and expressions through stories and conversations. She listens and repeats sentences and practices speaking. Apps like these help Sarah learn English in a natural and enjoyable way. You can try using apps that fit your level and interests. Use them daily for short practice sessions. Now let's talk about practicing English pronunciation. Good pronunciation helps others understand you clearly. You can practice by listening to native speakers and repeating what they say. Focus on sounds that are different or difficult for you. For example, John noticed he had trouble with the th sound. He practiced words like think, and that every day. His wife helped him by listening and giving feedback kindly. You can also record yourself and compare your pronunciation with native speakers. Remember, perfect pronunciation is not necessary. Clear and understandable speech is the goal. Next, I want to share a useful tip about learning new words. Instead of memorizing isolated words, learn them with examples and in phrases. For example, learn the word help with phrases like, "Can you help me?" or "I help my wife with cooking." This helps you remember how to use the word correctly and naturally. My friend Laura learned many words this way and improved her speaking a lot. Try to notice how words are used in real sentences when you read or listen. Practice these sentences yourself. Finally, let's talk about staying motivated on your English learning journey. Sometimes learning a new language can feel difficult or slow. It's normal to feel this way. Remember your reasons for learning English. Maybe it is for work, travel, or to communicate better with your family. Keep these reasons in mind when you practice. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Try to connect English learning with things you enjoy or need in your life. For example, if you like cooking, learn food-related vocabulary and practice talking about recipes with your wife. If you want to travel, learn common phrases for directions and asking questions. When learning is useful and interesting, it feels easier and more fun. Let me share a story about Kevin. Kevin wanted to improve his English to talk with his wife's family. He set small goals like learning 5 new words each week and practicing speaking for 10 minutes daily. Kevin stayed motivated by seeing his progress and using English in daily life. You can do this too. Set small goals, practice regularly, and remember your reasons for learning English. The English Pod community is here to support you every step of the way. Keep practicing and your English will improve day by day. Now, let me tell you about a simple practice you can start today. Pick a short English article or story. Read it carefully. Listen to the audio if available. Write down new words and phrases. Try to make your own sentences using those words. Speak your sentences aloud. Try to use them in conversation with your husband, wife, or friends. This simple routine helps connect learning to real life and makes English easier to understand and use. Remember, stop memorizing and start understanding. Your English journey will become smoother and more enjoyable when you focus on meaning, context, and practice. Let's continue by exploring how small changes in your daily routine can make a big difference in understanding English better. One effective method is to use English in simple conversations throughout your day. For example, Tom and his wife, Rachel, decided to speak English during breakfast every morning. Tom would say things like, "Good morning, Rachel. Did you sleep well?" And Rachel would reply, "Yes, thank you. What are our plans today?" These short, natural exchanges helped both of them improve their vocabulary and confidence without feeling pressured. You can start by using simple greetings and questions in English with your husband, wife, or family. This creates a comfortable environment to practice regularly. Another helpful habit is to describe your feelings and thoughts in English. For example, Anna tells her husband, "I feel happy today because the weather is nice," or "I am tired after work." Expressing emotions in English helps you learn new words and makes your conversations more meaningful. If you don't know how to say certain feelings, look up simple words like happy, sad, excited, or tired and practice using them. Now, let's talk about learning English by reading instructions and manuals. This is practical because it helps you understand real-world language. For instance, David and his wife often read cooking recipes together. They read sentences like, "Preheat the oven to 180 degrees," or "Mix the flour and sugar." Reading and following instructions improves your understanding of verbs and common phrases. It also helps with vocabulary related to daily activities. Try to find simple instructions for tasks you do, like assembling furniture, using a new appliance, or gardening. Reading these in English and trying to follow them helps you connect language with actions, making understanding easier. Next, I want to talk about learning English through questions and answers. Asking questions is a natural way to learn and understand language. When you ask questions, you practice using different sentence forms and vocabulary. For example, Sarah asks her husband, "What did you do today?" And he replies, "I worked in the garden." You can practice by thinking of simple questions about your day, family, or plans. Try to answer questions about yourself in English. For example, where do you live? What do you like to eat? This method helps you prepare for real conversations and improves your ability to understand others. Let me share a story about Michael and Anna. They play a question and answer game in English every evening. Michael asks, "What is your favorite food?" And Anna answers, "I like pasta." Then Anna asks, "What do you do on weekends?" And Michael replies. This fun activity helps them practice English and learn from each other. You can try this with your family or friends. It makes learning interactive and enjoyable. Another useful tip is to use flashcards with pictures and sentences. For example, James made flashcards with pictures of fruits. On one side, he has a picture of an apple, and on the other side, the word apple and a sentence. "I eat an apple every day." Using flashcards helps connect words with images and meaning. It also helps you remember vocabulary better. You can create flashcards for different topics, like food, clothes, places, or actions. Practice with your husband, wife, or friends. Show them a picture and try to say the sentence aloud. This method makes learning active and fun. Now, let's talk about how to improve your understanding by focusing on key words in sentences. When you listen or read, try to catch the most important words that give meaning. These are usually nouns, verbs, and adjectives. For example, in the sentence, "My wife cooked a delicious meal yesterday," the key words are wife, cooked, delicious, and meal. Even if you don't understand every word, focusing on these key words helps you get the main idea. Anna uses this method when listening to English conversations. She listens for the key words and tries to understand the message. You can practice by listening to short sentences and identifying the important words. Try to guess the meaning even if some words are new. Another important skill is to repeat and practice common expressions. For example, greetings like "How are you?" or polite phrases like "Thank you very much" are used every day. Michael and his wife Laura practice these expressions regularly. They say "Good morning" when they meet and "Have a nice day" when they leave. Practicing these common phrases helps you sound natural and polite in conversations. Try to learn a few new expressions every week and use them with your family and friends. Next, I want to share a simple exercise to improve your understanding and speaking. Pick a short paragraph from a book or article. Read it carefully and try to understand the meaning. Then, cover the text and try to say the paragraph aloud in your own words. This exercise helps you practice speaking and understanding at the same time. My friend John does this daily. He says it helped him improve his fluency and confidence. You can do this too with any reading material you like. Finally, I want to encourage you to celebrate your progress regularly. Learning English is a journey. Sometimes progress feels slow, but every effort counts. Talk with your husband or wife about what you have learned. Share new words, phrases, or sentences. This sharing helps you remember and motivates you to keep practicing. Remember, stop memorizing and start understanding. Focus on connecting English to your life, practicing regularly, and using language in real situations. With patience and practice, your English will improve step by step. Let me tell you about something that happened with a student named Paul. Paul had been learning English for almost 5 years. Every day, he would write down 10 new words in his notebook. He had pages full of vocabulary, but when he had to speak, he froze. He couldn't remember the words or use them naturally in a sentence. One day, he came to me and said, "Myra, I don't understand. I memorized so many words, but I still can't speak well." I smiled and said, "Paul, let's try something new. No more memorizing lists. Let's understand words in real situations." So we read a short story together. In the story, there was a man named Mr. Clark who got lost in a small town. He asked people for help. Words like directions, corner, block, and intersection came up. After reading, Paul understood how these words were used in real life. We then practiced with role play. I acted as a stranger and Paul had to give me directions. It was a little funny at first because he got the streets mixed up, but he laughed and said, "I get it now. This is how people really talk." That one story helped him more than a week of word lists. He learned not only the words, but how to use them with confidence. So here's the message. When you stop memorizing and start understanding, your brain connects ideas better. Another example is with a woman named Sarah. Sarah was a nurse and wanted to improve her English to speak with her patients. She used to memorize health-related vocabulary like fever, cough, headache, medicine. But during her shift, she couldn't use them naturally. We changed her study plan. Instead of memorizing, we talked through situations. For example, what would she say to a patient who had stomach pain? What questions would she ask? What would the patient answer? By practicing small dialogues and understanding why we use certain words, Sarah improved quickly. She became more confident and her patients felt more comfortable. Understanding is like building a house. Memorizing words is like collecting bricks. But if you don't know how to use them, you don't have a house. You just have a pile of bricks. Now, think about this. Have you ever heard someone say a sentence like, "I yesterday supermarket went"? You might know all the words, but they're not in the right order. That's what happens when we memorize without understanding grammar and usage. Here's something we did with another learner, James. James worked in customer service. He wanted to improve his phone conversations with clients. Instead of giving him grammar rules or long lists of business phrases, we focused on natural speech. We listened to short calls, paused after each line, and asked, "Why did the speaker say this? What was the purpose?" Then James practiced using those same phrases in his real calls. He felt more natural and customers started saying things like, "You explained that so clearly." James told me later, "Now I understand the language. I don't just remember the words." Let's look at another way to understand English better. It's called chunking. Chunking means learning groups of words together instead of single words. For example, instead of learning take and break separately, you learn the phrase take a break as one idea. We had a student named Hannah who always said, "I take rest," because she knew the word take and rest. But that's not natural in English. We say, "I take a break" or "I get some rest." When we taught her using chunks, she started sounding more fluent. We gave her small conversations to read and highlight phrases like "at the moment," "a couple of," "by the way," and "in charge of." These helped her understand how English flows. Here's another powerful method. Ask yourself questions while listening. Imagine you're watching a short video or listening to a story. Don't just hear the words. Ask, who was speaking? What is the situation? Why did they say that? What do they mean? This active thinking trains your brain to connect ideas instead of just remembering sounds. Let's say a man says, "I'm running late, but I'll be there in 10 minutes. You might understand each word, but ask, what's the situation? Maybe he's late for a meeting. He's informing someone. The word running here doesn't mean exercise. It means he's behind schedule. Understanding like this helps you speak better too. Another learner, Michael, used to say, "I listened English podcast." He didn't understand he needed to after listen. So we practiced common structures. Listen to, talk to, depend on, care about. He asked, "Why do we say listen to but not hear to?" That question led to a great discussion, and the answer helped him remember and use the language correctly. Understanding grammar is not about big books. It's about noticing patterns. Like, I go to work every day. She goes to work every day. Notice how go changes to goes with she. You don't need to memorize rules like third-person singular. Just notice how people speak and copy that style. We also did a fun practice with a student named Adam. He used to say, "He don't know." We showed him 5 real examples from short news texts. He doesn't know where she is. She doesn't eat meat. It doesn't work properly. Adam said, "So with he, she, and it, we say doesn't." That small discovery changed his speaking. Language learning becomes exciting when you make small discoveries like this. It becomes something real, not just study. And sometimes it helps to tell stories about your own life. When learners start to describe their experiences, they begin to own the language. I once asked a student, Daniel, to talk about his first job. At first, he said, job started. I was nervous. We worked together to build full ideas. He later said, I started my first job at a bakery. I was very nervous on my first day, but my manager, Mr. Thomas, was kind and explained everything. That paragraph used real vocabulary, emotions, and structure, not memorized, learned through understanding. And that's the kind of English that sticks. Let me share one last quick example here. Emily, a mother of 2, wanted to help her children with homework in English, but she felt unsure. We practiced short school-related conversations, like talking with teachers or explaining a math problem. She learned phrases like, let's try again, that's close, you almost got it, and what's the next step? These were not just words, they were tools to support her children. Emily later said, I feel like I'm growing with them. That's real learning. That's understanding. When you learn a new word or phrase today, don't stop at the meaning. Ask, how is it used? Where can I use it? Can I put it into a sentence about my life? Let's continue with another powerful story that shows the difference between memorizing and truly understanding. I once had a student named Kevin. He had been learning English for over 5 years. Every day, he would memorize long lists of vocabulary words. He had notebooks filled with words and definitions. He even color-coded them with highlighters. One day, Kevin came to me feeling frustrated. He said, Myra, I know so many words, but I still cannot understand people when they talk, and I freeze when I try to speak. I asked Kevin a simple question. Kevin, can you tell me what the word efficient means? He replied, yes, it means working in a well-organized and competent way. I memorized that. So I followed up. Okay, great. Now tell me, what would be an efficient way to clean your room? Kevin looked confused. He paused. Then he admitted, I'm not sure. That was the moment he understood. Knowing a definition is not enough. You have to connect that word to real situations. So we worked together. I asked, what if you had a timer for 20 minutes and a checklist to follow? Would that be efficient? Kevin smiled and said, yes, that would help me stay focused and save time. Exactly. That's the goal. Stop thinking of words as lines on a page. Start thinking of them as tools you can use in real life. Let's look at another example. I met a woman named Sarah who was preparing for a job interview. She had memorized formal phrases like, I am highly motivated and detail-oriented. But when I asked her, can you give me an example of a time you showed attention to detail? She couldn't answer. So I said, Sarah, think of a time when being careful really mattered. She thought for a moment and said, oh, yes, last month I helped organize my sister's wedding. I double-checked the guest list, called the venue to confirm the chairs and food, and even found 2 mistakes in the contract. That's perfect. That's understanding. She didn't need a memorized phrase. She needed to connect her experience to the idea of being detail-oriented. Now, let me give you a tip you can try right now. Choose any new word you're learning today. Don't just read the definition. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. How would I use this word in my daily life? 2. Can I explain this word to a friend using simple words? 3. Can I find one personal example where this word makes sense? Let's try one together. The word is priority. First, how would you use this in your life? You might say, my priority this week is finishing my school project. Second, how can you explain it in simple words? Something that is more important than other things. And third, what's one real example? When I was planning my wedding with my husband, our biggest priority was making sure our families could attend. Do you see how deep understanding starts to build? Let me tell you about another learner I worked with. His name was Daniel. Daniel had a problem. He said, Myra, I understand English when I read, but I can't speak fluently. I asked Daniel, how do you study? He said, I copy grammar rules from a book and read them again and again. So I asked, do you ever use those rules in conversation? He said, "No, I'm afraid of making mistakes." Here's what I told Daniel. Understanding doesn't grow from silence. It grows from action. We started role-playing simple conversations. For example, I would say, "Tell me about your weekend," but use the past tense. He said, "I went to the market. I bought some apples. I cooked lunch for my wife." That was it. Simple but powerful. He was using the rules, not just reading about them. After 2 weeks of this kind of practice, he told me, "Now I feel more confident. I'm not perfect, but I'm improving fast." That's the power of shifting from memorization to understanding. Let's take another situation. Think of a student named Rachel who wants to travel. She studies words like itinerary, accommodation, and destination. But when she actually goes to book a hotel, she's confused. Why? Because the words stayed in her notebook. They never reached her thinking. I asked Rachel to do something different. "Let's plan a fake trip together," I said. "Tell me where you want to go and what you would do there." She said, "Okay, I want to visit Canada. My destination is Toronto. My itinerary includes 3 days in the city and 2 days in the countryside. I will book accommodation near the lake." That's it. Just by using the words in a real plan, Rachel started to remember them naturally. Here's something you can do after this episode. Pick one topic, like going to the market, planning your day, or helping your child with homework. Then write or speak about it using English. Don't worry about being perfect. Focus on using the words you've learned in ways that make sense to you. Let me show you what this looks like with a basic topic, making breakfast. Let's take the word prepare. You can say, "I prepare breakfast every morning for my husband." Then go deeper. "I usually prepare eggs, toast, and tea. I try to finish it before he wakes up." Even deeper. "I prepare it in a calm way because I enjoy starting the day peacefully." See? One word, many layers. And every layer adds more understanding. Let me share a final story in this section. I once taught a group of parents who wanted to learn English to help their children. One man, Joseph, told me, "I'm trying to memorize all the grammar rules so I can help my daughter." I asked him, "What does your daughter need help with?" He said, "She needs help writing a paragraph about her weekend." So I said, "Let's write it together." He started slowly. On Saturday, she played with her cousin. On Sunday, we went to the park. I asked, "What did she enjoy the most?" He smiled. "She loved the slide. She was laughing the whole time." That's when I said, "Joseph, you just helped your daughter more than any grammar rule ever could. You understood what she did, what she felt, and you put it into words." That's understanding. And that's the kind of English that stays with you forever. Now pause for a moment and think, which learning style are you using right now? Are you memorizing lists, or are you making connections? Learning English is not about filling your head. It's about filling your life with meaning. Let's continue with more practical ways you can turn memorization to deep understanding. Let's talk about another learner, Emma. Emma works as a nurse and wanted to improve her English to communicate better with patients. She used to memorize medical words but struggled to use them in conversation. So we changed her approach. Instead of memorizing lists, Emma started to listen to real patient conversations and role play with her husband, Mark. For example, Mark pretended to have a headache, and Emma practiced asking questions like, "How long have you had the headache?" and "Do you have any other symptoms?" By practicing real situations, Emma understood how to use words naturally. She also learned phrases like, "Take your medicine," "Get some rest," and "Call me if you feel worse." Emma told me, "When I learned this way, I stopped worrying about remembering every word. I just focused on understanding what the patient needed and helping them." This shows that using language in context helps you remember and apply it better. Let me share a story about a man named Alex who wanted to improve his English for his job in a store. He used to memorize long lists of product names and prices, but when customers asked questions, he got confused. We practiced common conversations he would have, like, "Can I help you find something?" "Yes, I'm looking for apples." How many kilograms do you want? Alex practiced these sentences with his wife every day. One day, a customer came in and asked for something Alex didn't know. Instead of freezing, Alex said, "I'm sorry, I don't know, but I will ask my manager." That small phrase helped Alex stay calm and communicate well. Alex learned that it's okay not to know everything. Understanding how to handle situations is more important than memorizing everything. Here's another tip. Use English in your daily tasks. For example, when you cook, say the steps aloud. I'm cutting the onions. Now I'm boiling water. Or when you clean the house, describe what you are doing. I'm washing the dishes. The kitchen is clean now. My friend Linda does this with her husband. They talk about what they are doing in English, which helps both of them practice speaking naturally. Try to make English part of your daily life, not just study time. Now, let's talk about reading to improve understanding. Choose simple books or articles that interest you. Try to read a little every day. When you find new words, guess the meaning from the sentence before checking a dictionary. Write down new words and try to use them in sentences. For example, if you learn the word market, you can write, "I go to the market every Saturday," or "The market sells fresh vegetables." This helps connect words with real life. Jason, a learner I know, reads short news articles and then tells his wife what he learned. This helps him practice speaking and remember vocabulary. You can do the same by sharing your reading with someone else. Another useful technique is shadowing. This means listening to a sentence and repeating it out loud immediately. For example, listen to, "It is raining today," then say it aloud. Repeat several times. This helps improve pronunciation, rhythm, and listening skills. Mike uses shadowing every day for 10 minutes. He says it made his English sound more natural. Try to find short audio clips with clear pronunciation and practice shadowing. Also, don't forget to ask questions when you don't understand something. If you're speaking with someone and don't understand, say, "Could you please repeat that?" Or, "What does this word mean?" This helps you learn and shows you are interested. My friend Peter practices this with his wife. She helps explain words and expressions in simple English. If you don't have a speaking partner, write down questions about things you don't understand and look them up later. Let's also talk about learning phrases instead of single words. For example, learn make a decision, not just make or decision. Using phrases helps you speak more naturally and understand native speakers better. Sophie and her husband learned many useful phrases by reading emails and talking about their day. They use expressions like catch up later, look forward to, and get along with. Try to notice phrases when you listen or read and practice using them. Next, I want to share a helpful way to improve your listening. Listen to different types of English accents and speeds. English is spoken worldwide, so hearing different accents prepares you to understand various speakers. For example, David listens to podcasts from England, America, and Australia. This helped him understand different pronunciations. You can find materials online or in apps to practice listening to different accents. Also, it's okay to listen to the same material several times. Each time, you'll notice more and understand better. Now I want to talk about speaking with confidence. Many learners feel shy because they want to be perfect, but the goal is communication, not perfection. Start with small talks about your day, family, or plans. For example, "I cleaned the house today," or "My wife and I will visit the market." Practice regularly with someone you trust. You can also record yourself speaking and listen to improve. Remember, mistakes are part of learning. Finally, set small, achievable goals. For example, learn 3 new phrases per week or speak English 5 minutes a day. Write your goals and track progress. Every small step helps you improve. Keep practicing with the English Pod community. Your English will grow day by day. Now, here is a small exercise to try. Choose a simple topic like cooking, shopping, or daily routine. Write 5 sentences about it in English. Read the sentences aloud. Try to use some new words or phrases. Practice with your husband, wife, or friends. This will help you connect English learning to real life and improve understanding. Remember, stop memorizing and start understanding. Keep practicing and your English will become stronger and more natural. Let's now talk about another important idea: learning through situations. When we understand language in real situations, it becomes easier to remember and use it. Let me tell you about a man named Andrew. He works as a delivery driver. Andrew wanted to improve his English so he could talk with customers and understand directions better. He didn't sit down and memorize long vocabulary lists. Instead, he started to pay attention to what people were saying during deliveries. One day, a customer said, "Could you leave the box beside the front door?" Andrew didn't know the word beside before, but by seeing the customer point next to the door, Andrew understood what it meant. He remembered that word because it was used in a real situation. Now, Andrew always tries to understand new words from the context. He listens carefully, watches body language, and thinks about the situation. This helped him more than memorizing hundreds of words alone. So, ask yourself, are you putting yourself in situations where English is used? If not, it's okay. You can create small situations at home. For example, when you're cooking, say the names of each action out loud in English. I'm cutting the onion. Now I'm boiling water. This helps your brain connect words with real life. Here's another method: question and answer practice. Ask yourself simple questions like, "What am I doing now?" Then answer, "I am walking to the market." Or ask, "What did I eat for breakfast?" And reply, "I ate eggs and toast." This is simple but very powerful. It trains your brain to think in English, not just translate. Let me tell you about Emma. She is a teacher and a mother. She wanted to become fluent so she could help her son with school English. Emma didn't have much free time, but she used what she had. While washing dishes, she would talk to herself in English. "I'm cleaning the plate. This one is very dirty. I need more soap." It felt funny at first, but slowly, English started to feel natural. Now Emma says she doesn't study English, she lives it. That's the goal for all of us. Let's move on to something many learners feel confused about: grammar rules. I know, grammar can seem very difficult. But here's the thing, we don't need to know every rule before speaking. Think of children. They speak full sentences before they learn grammar rules. When I started learning French, I tried to memorize every rule about verbs. But when I spoke, I was too slow and nervous. Later, I realized that hearing and repeating common sentence patterns helped me more. You can do the same with English. Focus on patterns. Let's say you want to learn how to describe the past. Instead of memorizing all past tense verbs at once, learn them through use. For example, learn phrases like, "I went to the shop." "She cooked dinner." "They visited their parents." Say these again and again until they feel natural. Then change the subject. "We went to the park." "He cooked breakfast." "I visited my friend." You're not memorizing words alone, you're understanding how the pieces work together. Now, let's talk about the problem of forgetting. Many learners say, "I study, but I forget everything." If that happens to you, don't feel bad. It's normal. The brain forgets what it doesn't use. The key is repetition in different ways. Don't just read a word once. Hear it, say it, use it in a sentence, write it down, and think about it again later. Every time you use it in a different way, your memory becomes stronger. Let me share a method used by a learner named Kevin. Kevin is a construction worker. He's busy during the day, but he listens to short English stories during his lunch break. After each story, he writes down 3 words he didn't know. Then he creates sentences with those words. Later, when talking with his coworkers, he tries to use those words. For example, he learned the word careful. He made a sentence, "Be careful with the hammer." Then he used it at work. Now he will never forget that word. Learning is about connecting what you hear and what you do. Now let's think about how understanding works. If I say the baby is crying, you probably imagine a small child making noise. You don't stop and translate each word into your native language. That's what we want, direct understanding. You can train your brain to do this. Try this little exercise. I'll say a sentence and you picture it in your mind. Ready? A man is carrying a heavy box up the stairs. Did you see the man, the box, the stairs? That's great. Now another one. The woman is drinking a glass of water. You see the action, not just the words. This is deep learning. Now let's take it further. Try to create the picture before you hear the words. For example, I'll describe a scene. A boy is standing near a tree. He's holding something in his hand. It's round and red. He takes a bite. You probably guessed it. It's an apple. That's understanding based on situation, not vocabulary lists. Let's talk about another learner. Her name is Sarah. She works in a grocery store. She used to try to memorize long lists of food names, but she couldn't remember them all. Then she started learning by noticing how customers spoke. She listened to sentences like, "Do you have fresh tomatoes? Where can I find the flour? I'd like a bag of rice, please." Sarah started repeating these full sentences. She didn't just learn tomato or rice, she learned how people ask for things. This changed everything. Now, she speaks confidently to customers in English. Do you see the pattern? Real English, real situations, real practice. Also, one very powerful method is asking why. Don't just copy a phrase. Ask yourself, why do people say it this way? This helps you understand the logic of English. For example, someone says, "I've just eaten." Ask, why not "I just ate"? Well, "I've just eaten" is present perfect. It means the action is very recent and has a connection to now. When you understand that, you remember it better. Don't worry if it takes time. English is a journey. Every time you understand a little more, you move forward. Let's go back to daily practice. A listener named James from Canada told me how he improved his English by speaking with himself during walks. He'd walk through the park and say, "The sun is bright today. I see a squirrel climbing the tree. There are children playing." He wasn't memorizing, he was describing what he saw. And that made the words stay in his mind. Even if you live alone, speak out loud. Use mirrors. Record your voice. The more you use the language, the more your brain understands it. Let's also talk about the idea of reviewing. Many learners think, "I read it once, I should remember." But our brains forget quickly. That's why reviewing is important. After 1 day, review. Then 3 days. Then 1 week. Try this with stories too. Read or listen to the same short story 3 times in 1 week. The first time, you might understand 60%. The second time, 80%. The third time, almost everything. This builds confidence. I'll stop here for a short moment, but remember, in the English Pod community, we give you these methods every day to help you use English naturally. More stories and tips are coming up in the next part. One helpful technique to improve your English is to talk to yourself in English during your daily routine. You don't need anyone around. For example, when you are brushing your teeth, you can say things like, "I am brushing my teeth now. After this, I will eat breakfast. Then I'll get ready for work." This may sound simple, but it builds your fluency. You learn how to form full sentences naturally and get used to speaking without stress. You can describe what you're doing, what you plan to do, and how you feel. If you do this often, you'll notice that your confidence grows. Speaking to yourself removes fear of being judged. It also helps your brain to think in English without translating from your native language. This habit slowly replaces the habit of thinking in your own language. Many learners find this useful because they start feeling more comfortable speaking English in real conversations. Another practical habit is reading out loud. Pick a short passage or a paragraph from a beginner or intermediate English book and read it out loud every day. This helps you practice pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. You'll become more aware of how English sounds. You don't need to read for hours, just 5 to 10 minutes a day is enough to see progress. You can also try recording your voice while reading and then listen to it. Compare it to the way native speakers read the same passage. Notice the differences in speed, stress, and pauses. At first, you may not like the way you sound, but that's normal. Everyone feels that way in the beginning. Over time, you'll get used to your voice and you'll start noticing improvements. Besides that, one of the easiest ways to practice listening is by following simple English instructions, like recipes or daily tasks. For example, search for easy English instructions on how to make tea or how to organize your room. Listen carefully to the steps and try to follow them. This kind of listening is useful because it connects words with actions, which helps your brain remember them more easily. When you understand basic instructions in English, you'll feel more confident in using English in real-life situations. You can also test yourself by giving instructions to someone else in English or writing down your own steps for doing something. This helps both your speaking and writing skills. Let's talk about vocabulary building. A smart way to increase your vocabulary is by choosing a theme for each week. For example, this week you can choose kitchen vocabulary. You learn words like spoon, fork, plate, cup, stove, sink, and so on. Every day, you can write 5 to 10 words related to the theme and use them in simple sentences. Using words in your own sentences makes them stick in your memory longer. It's not enough to just memorize the meaning. You need to use the word. For example, instead of just learning the word knife, try using it like this: I cut the apple with a knife. Writing and saying your own examples helps you learn faster. You can also use flashcards to learn new words. You can make paper flashcards or use a free app. On one side, write the English word. On the other side, write the meaning and an example sentence. Review these flashcards every day, even for just 10 minutes. Over time, your vocabulary will grow and you'll feel more confident using new words when you speak. Let's not forget about grammar. Many learners feel grammar is hard, but it becomes easier when you connect it with real-life use. For example, instead of just learning about the present simple tense, try using it to talk about your day. Say things like, I wake up at 7 a.m., I eat breakfast at 8 a.m., I go to work at 9 a.m. Use grammar to describe your real habits. That way, grammar becomes useful and easier to remember. You can also create your own short stories using basic grammar structures. For example, using the past tense, write about what you did yesterday. Yesterday, I woke up early. I went for a walk. I met my friend Emma at the park. Writing like this makes you think in English and helps reinforce sentence patterns. Another great technique is shadowing. Shadowing means you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately, trying to match their pronunciation and speed. Choose simple audio at first. It could be a slow English podcast or a short story. As the speaker talks, you repeat at the same time, like an echo. It helps you improve fluency, listening, and speaking at the same time. You don't need to repeat perfectly. The goal is not perfection, it's practice. Over time, you'll sound smoother and more natural. It also trains your ear to catch how native speakers speak, including stress, pauses, and intonation. Try shadowing for 5 minutes each day. It's short but powerful. Many learners also find it helpful to write a short diary in English. Each night, write 2 or 3 sentences about your day. For example, today I had a meeting with my manager. We talked about a new project. I was a little nervous, but it went well. This habit improves your writing, helps review new vocabulary, and trains your brain to think in English. You can also write about how you feel or what you plan to do tomorrow. Try to use different tenses. For example, tomorrow I will visit my cousin. We are going to eat lunch together. Over time, you'll see improvement in how you use grammar naturally. Let's talk about motivation. Learning English is a long journey, so it's important to celebrate small wins. If you learned 10 new words this week, that's a win. If you spoke to someone in English, even for a few minutes, that's a win too. If you understood a full sentence without translating it, that's a win too. These small wins show that you are growing. Sometimes learners feel like they are not making progress, but that's usually not true. Progress can be slow and you may not notice it right away. That's why it helps to keep a journal where you write what you practiced each day. After a month, look back and you'll be surprised by how much you've learned. Also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. What matters is that you keep going. When you speak and make a mistake, just correct yourself and continue. That's how real learning happens. Every mistake is a step forward. Practicing with a partner is another excellent way to grow. If you have a friend who also wants to learn English, practice together. Set a time every week to speak only in English. You can talk about your week, your goals, or anything you like. You'll feel more motivated and get used to speaking in a real conversation. If you don't have a partner, you can join online language exchange groups. Many learners around the world want to practice English, and they're happy to talk with you. You can practice speaking, ask questions, and learn about different cultures. Let's say you're nervous about speaking. That's very common. A helpful trick is to prepare short scripts. Write down a few lines for common situations, like introducing yourself, ordering food, or asking for directions. Practice these lines often so they feel natural. Then, when you face that situation in real life, you'll know what to say. Here's an example. Hi, my name is David. I'm learning English. I work as a shop assistant. I enjoy learning new things. Practicing simple introductions gives you confidence. You can change the lines based on your own life and use them in real situations. Sometimes when you want to speak English, you might feel nervous. That's okay. Everyone feels that way in the beginning. The key is to keep practicing and not give up. Even if you make mistakes, keep going. Mistakes are part of learning. Think about a child learning to walk. The child falls many times, but never stops trying. In the same way, you need to keep trying and speaking English every day, even if it feels difficult. Over time, you will notice your confidence growing. Let's talk about how to build more confidence. One helpful way is to speak English with yourself. You can describe what you are doing during the day. For example, when you are brushing your teeth, say, "I'm brushing my teeth." When you are cooking, say, "I'm cooking rice." This helps your brain think in English, and soon you'll find that it becomes more natural to use English without translating from your first language. This is a simple but powerful method. Another great technique is to ask yourself small questions and answer them. For example, you can ask, "What did I do today?" Then answer in English. "I went to the market. I bought some fruit. I met my friend Sarah." These small exercises help you speak smoothly. You don't need anyone else to do this, just your voice and your thoughts. Reading out loud is also very useful. Choose a short passage or story that you enjoy. Read it out loud slowly and clearly. Listen to how your voice sounds. Try to speak with emotion and practice the rhythm of English. If you have a phone, record your voice and listen. You may feel shy at first, but hearing yourself helps you notice which words need improvement. You should also pay attention to simple conversations in English. Try to notice how people greet each other. Learn useful phrases like, "How are you?" or "Nice to meet you." Practice them again and again. These are very common and will help you in daily conversations. Making a list of useful phrases is a great idea too. Write down phrases like, "Can you help me please?" "I don't understand." "Could you say that again?" These are helpful in many situations, like when you are in a shop, talking to a stranger, or asking for directions. When you learn new words, don't try to remember too many at once. Focus on 3 to 5 words a day. Use them in your own sentences. If you learn the word clean, try saying, "I clean my room every morning," or "I need to clean my shoes." When you use a word in real life, you remember it better. It's important to take small steps and be patient. Some learners try to learn very fast, but later they forget what they studied. Slow and steady learning is better. Review what you learned yesterday before you start learning something new today. Try to speak clearly, not quickly. Many learners think speaking fast is better, but it's more important to speak clearly and with the right words. Even native speakers sometimes speak slowly when they explain something. Don't worry about speed, focus on being clear. You can also imagine situations and act them out. For example, imagine you are in a cafe. What would you say? "Hello, I would like a cup of tea, please." Or imagine you are asking for help. "Excuse me, can you tell me where the post office is?" These situations help you prepare for real-life conversations. Some learners feel shy because of their accent. But remember, everyone has an accent, even people who speak English as their first language. The goal is not to sound perfect. The goal is to be understood. So focus on speaking clearly and using the right words. It's also helpful to use simple grammar. You don't need to use long or complex sentences to speak well. Short sentences are powerful and easy to understand. For example, instead of saying, I have been thinking about going to the store, you can say, I want to go to the store. It's clear and it works. Practicing questions is also a great idea. Learn how to ask and answer simple questions like, where are you from? What do you do? How was your day? Ask yourself these questions daily and answer them. It will help you feel more ready when someone asks you the same. Make your learning routine fun and flexible. You don't need to sit for 2 hours every day. Just 20 minutes of speaking practice can make a big difference. You can do this in the morning or before bed. Try to be consistent. Some learners like to keep a journal in English. This is a great way to practice writing and thinking in English. You can write about your day, your goals, or how you feel. Even a few sentences a day help you think faster in English and notice what you can improve. Also, try to look around you and describe things in English. When you see a chair, say, that is a wooden chair. When you see the sun, say, the sun is bright today. This helps your vocabulary grow naturally and makes you more confident in describing things around you. Learning English is a journey, not a race. Every step you take brings you closer to fluency. Be kind to yourself. If you forget a word or say something wrong, just smile and try again. Every English speaker, even native ones, makes mistakes sometimes. What matters is your effort. If you have a friend who is also learning English, you can practice together. Set a time each day to speak only in English for 10 or 15 minutes. Talk about your plans, your favorite food, or your daily routine. You will learn from each other and feel more motivated. You can also label things in your house with English words. For example, write mirror on the mirror, door on the door, and fridge on the fridge. Every time you see these labels, you will remember the word. This is a simple but very effective method to build vocabulary. Learning common sentence patterns is another smart strategy too. For example, I want to, I like to, I have to. Try to make different sentences with these. I want to learn English. I like to read books. I have to go to work. These simple patterns are used in daily conversations. When you listen to someone speak English, try to repeat what they say. This is called shadowing. It helps you improve your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your confidence. Even if you don't understand every word, just try to repeat what you hear. Over time, your speaking will sound more natural. And remember, confidence comes from action. Don't wait until you feel perfect. Start speaking now. Every small step matters. Speak to yourself, read out loud, write in English, and imagine conversations. These actions will make your English stronger every single day. Let's continue with more practical ways to improve your English by understanding, not just memorizing. I want to share a story about a learner named Tom. Tom works in an office and needs English to communicate with his colleagues. He used to memorize lists of vocabulary every week, but felt he was not improving much. One day, I asked Tom, how do you use these words in your daily work? He thought for a moment and said, I don't really use them. I just memorize and forget. That's a common problem for many learners. So I suggested that Tom try a different approach. Instead of memorizing words, he started listening carefully to how his colleagues speak during meetings and breaks. He made notes of common phrases and expressions that they used, like, let's follow up on that, or can you send me the report? He practiced saying these sentences aloud. Tom also started practicing with his wife. They made simple role plays of work conversations. For example, he would say, can you help me with this project? And she would reply, sure, I can help you after lunch. These short conversations made him feel more confident. Within a few weeks, Tom told me, I feel much better. I can join meetings and understand what is happening. I'm also using English more naturally. This shows the power of learning in context. Words and phrases stick better when you connect them with real life. Let's talk about another learner, Olivia. Olivia wanted to improve her English listening. She listened to long audio recordings but often felt confused. So I suggested she start with short, simple audios about everyday topics. For example, Olivia listened to a 5-minute conversation about shopping. After listening once, she tried to answer simple questions like, where did they go shopping and what did they buy? This helped her focus on understanding the main idea, not every single word. Then, Olivia listened again and tried to write down important words or phrases she heard. On the third listen, she practiced saying the sentences aloud. This repetition helped her improve her listening and speaking at the same time. Olivia said, "Now I am less worried about missing words. I focus on understanding the story. This makes listening easier and more enjoyable." This is a good lesson for all of us. When you listen, focus on the main idea first. Don't try to understand every word. It's okay to miss some words. Your brain will fill in the gaps as you practice more. Next, I want to share some tips about learning English vocabulary. A learner named Jack once told me, "I try to learn many words, but I forget them quickly." I told Jack, "It's normal. The key is to use the words often." Jack started keeping a vocabulary notebook. Every day, he wrote down 5 new words he learned, but he didn't stop there. He wrote sentences with each word and tried to say the sentences out loud. For example, if Jack learned the word important, he wrote, "It is important to study every day." Then he practiced saying the sentence. After a few days, he used the word in his conversations with his colleagues. Jack also used flashcards on his phone. On one side, he wrote the English word. On the other side, he wrote the meaning and an example sentence. He reviewed these flashcards for a few minutes each day. This daily practice helped Jack remember words better. So, when you learn new words, don't just memorize the meaning. Try to use the words in sentences and speak them aloud. This helps your brain remember better and makes your English more natural. Let's talk about another useful way to improve your English, watching English videos with subtitles. Many learners find it helpful to watch short videos with English subtitles. This way, you can listen and read at the same time. For example, if you watch a video about cooking, listen carefully and read the subtitles. Try to repeat some sentences aloud. You can pause the video and say the sentences yourself. This helps with pronunciation and listening skills. But be careful not to rely only on subtitles. Try to listen without reading every time. This trains your ear to understand English without seeing the words. Another great method is to keep a learning journal. Write down new words, phrases, and sentences you learn every day. Write about your day or your thoughts in simple English. For example, write, "Today I went to the market. I bought vegetables and fruit. The weather was nice." This practice helps you use grammar and vocabulary and improves your writing skills. If you write regularly, you will notice your English becomes clearer and easier to understand. You can even ask a friend or teacher to read your journal and give you feedback. Now, let's talk about the importance of asking questions when you don't understand. Many learners feel shy to ask questions, but asking questions is a sign of a good learner. If you don't understand a word or sentence, ask politely, "Could you please repeat that?" Or, "What does this word mean?" People usually like to help if you ask nicely. If you are listening to a podcast or a lesson, pause and think about what you heard. Try to answer simple questions like, "What was the main idea?" or "What new word did I learn?" Answering questions helps you remember and understand better. It also trains your brain to listen actively. Let's also discuss how speaking with others helps your English. If you can, try to speak English with your family, friends, or colleagues. Even short conversations help a lot. If you feel shy, start with simple greetings and questions. How are you? What did you do today? What is your favorite food? These small talks build your confidence. If you don't have a speaking partner, you can join online language groups or find conversation partners through language exchange websites. Practicing speaking regularly is one of the fastest ways to improve. Another idea is to prepare short speeches or presentations on topics you like. For example, prepare a 2-minute talk about your hometown, your job, or your hobbies. Practice the speech several times. This helps you organize your thoughts and speak clearly. You can even record yourself giving the speech. Listen and notice areas to improve. Keep practicing and you will feel more confident speaking in front of others. Let's talk about learning grammar in a simple way. Grammar is important, but don't let it stop you from speaking. Learn grammar step by step. For example, start with simple tenses like present simple and past simple. Practice using these tenses in sentences about your daily life. Say, "I work every day." "I went to the market yesterday." Use these sentences in your writing and speaking. You can also learn grammar through stories. Read simple stories and notice how grammar is used. This way, you learn grammar naturally. Another important tip is to practice English every day. Even 10 minutes of practice is better than 1 hour once a week. Make a habit of speaking, listening, reading, and writing every day. This helps your brain remember and improve. Remember to be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time. Celebrate your progress and enjoy the journey. Finally, try to enjoy the learning process. Find topics that interest you and use English in those areas. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of our English Learning Podcast. We hope today's topics helped you practice your listening and speaking skills in a fun and easy way. Every conversation, every sentence, and every new word you learn brings you one step closer to becoming a more confident English speaker. Keep practicing every day, and don't worry if you make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our channel so you never miss a lesson. You can also share this podcast with your friends who are learning English too. Your support means a lot and helps us make more helpful content for learners like you. Remember, learning English is not about being perfect. It's about making progress little by little every day. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care and keep speaking English. Bye for now.